journey it has been this Advent as we have traveled to the finery of imperial Rome, to the high holiness of the Jerusalem temple, the quaintness of tiny little Nazareth, and finally our destination of Bethlehem. And we got to Bethlehem the easy way, through the pages of a story. Not so for Mary and Joseph. They had to walk from Nazareth about 80 miles or so, and I can only imagine how exhausted and overwhelmed they felt upon arrival, longing for a hot bath and a soft bed, maybe a good meal, but instead they got an animal shelter complete with a stinking manger to lay their newborn. Welcome to the world, baby Jesus. Although most of us would rewrite the story if that were ours to do, if somehow that could have changed the situation for the Holy Family, maybe it's perfect the way it is, messy and imperfect as it is. What we learn from the story of Bethlehem, from the manger, is this: God comes to us and dwells within us in the midst of the messiest parts of our lives, the mangers. Not the well-kept, well-swept, presentable parts of our lives. When we are the most vulnerable and need the most care, that is where we will find God with us, Emmanuel, if only we welcome the disruption. The animals did in their messy but practical way, according to the 12th century French carol, The Friendly Beasts, which imagines what the farm animals might have been saying to the Holy Child born in their humble shelter. The song is a delightful little fable with a big lesson to teach us, and I would like to share it with you. Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable of wood, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. I said the donkey, shaggy and brown, I carried his mother up hill and down, I carried his mother to Bethlehem town. I said the donkey, shaggy and brown. And he might have added under his donkey breath, sorry about the bumpy ride, you know I'm not a gaited horse. But hey, donkey, no problem. You carried the burden. We don't always know how to show up for people with heavy burdens. Sometimes we feel awkward. How do you help someone saddled with a heavy burden, be it physical, emotional, financial, or otherwise? Do you ask what they need? Do you offer a specific kind of help? Do you just do it without being asked? What if you don't do it well? What if your words are wrong or your help is unhelpful? Well, I tell you what, you could overthink it to the point of doing nothing at all. But as anyone who has ever struggled with a burden knows, anything anyone can offer is welcome. Even if the help isn't accepted, just being asked is huge, because the one struggling knows, I'm not alone, and there is help to carry the burden. That shaggy brown donkey we meet at the manger, he teaches us the important lesson: show up and do your best. Your caring is enough. Let's hear from another resident of the stable. I said the cow all white and red, I gave him my manger for his bed, I gave him hay to pillow his head, I said the cow all white and red. She might have added, apologetically, sorry about the manger, there's a little cut on that hay. You know, we weren't expecting company, I'm afraid it'll have to do. But hey, Mrs. Cow, it was the softest bed offered to the Holy Family, and I am certain that they were grateful. We may worry sometimes that our hospitality is not sufficient. We just can't all be 5-star chefs or Martha Stewart housekeepers. What if what we offer just isn't up to the standards of someone else? And yet sometimes the most important thing is simply to extend the hospitality. We can too easily get caught up in the need for perfection. But if that's the goal, we're unlikely ever to give the gift of hospitality. It can be simple. Sometimes that is the best. People can relax when they are not worried about using the wrong fork or rumpling the perfectly arranged pillows. The worst thing we can do is to become isolated. We need connection, and when we welcome each other into our lives, we both give and receive the gift of Christ, God's presence with us. Next up is a lesson from an animal not usually lauded for its intelligence, but do hear this wisdom. I said the sheep with curly horn, I gave him my wool for his blanket warm. He wore my coat on Christmas morn. I said the sheep with curly horn. Sorry about the scratchy wool, it might have added. I'm not one of those fancy alpacas or Angora rabbits. No sweat, sheep. That wool keeps everyone warm. Sometimes the best gifts are the simplest ones. My grandma used to make a lot of quilts. She had an inexhaustible supply of fabrics, and she churned out quilts faster than she could give them away. Now, these were not blue ribbon quilts made from intricate patterns and well-coordinated designer colors. These quilts were what you might call serviceable, made from cheap but durable fabrics that wore like steel, which they had to. You see, my grandma made these quilts to send to refugees. The quilts would provide warmth for people sleeping rough, and they could be used to bundle up anything people might need to carry with them as they walked from camp to camp. I have no idea how many displaced people may have used one of my grandma's quilts to carry their most precious belongings, everything from cooking pots to kids, as they wandered through a world that felt mostly cruel. Each quilt was a message of kindness from a stranger who simply offered what she had, hoping it would keep someone warm. Her quilts aren't pretty. They are beautiful, and they remind me not to worry about how pretty something is. When there is a need to be met, we can meet it with what is at hand, and that's enough. The last lesson is from the most overlooked of our stable residents, but do hear their soft-spoken message. I said the dove from the rafters high, I called him to sleep that he should not cry. We called him to sleep, my mate and I said the dove from the rafters high. Sorry about the song, we may have been a little off key, no proper vocal training here in the stable. No worries, dear birds, your songs were the sweetest ones anyone heard all night. Oh boy, do I know that story. As a hack musician, I have always wondered, is my voice good enough? Are my instrumental skills good enough? Is my conducting good enough? I am well aware that there are plenty of musicians in the world far more skilled than I am. And yet, when I sang my own little one to sleep, she seemed to love it. Whenever I play my accordion to accompany Christmas carolers, they sing along. And when I direct the community choir, a message of love is sent out into the world. It doesn't matter how good we are at something. If we have a song to sing, a poem to write, a picture to draw, a quilt to sew, a cradle to build, bread to bake, the special things we offer with joy and love are blessings to those who receive them. Let us not silence our voices or still our hands for fear of not being good enough. That manger was a fine mess, but it was in the middle of the mess that God came to earth in the form of that baby who didn't have it in him to look down upon any of the gifts he received, no matter how humble and no matter who gave them. The best gift of Christmas is the knowledge that God is pleased to dwell with us, even in the messiest parts of our lives. As our song concludes, thus all the beasts by some good spell in the stable dark were glad to tell of the gifts they gave Emmanuel, the gifts they gave Emmanuel. At the end of the day, everyone had shared their gift, welcoming the Christ child in the best way they could, and they were blessed for having done so because God was there with them. When we welcome Christ in the way he instructed us by tending to the least of these, we too receive the blessing of Emmanuel, God with us. Episcopal priest Morton Kelsey once wrote these words, quoted by Rob Fouquet in his book, On the Way to Bethlehem. I would like to share them with you. Where was the Christ child born? Where, I ask you? In a palace amid the splendors of servants and the comforts of ease? Was he received on a silken pillow and adored by all the glittering household? No, He wasn't born in a palace, and I am glad for it. For had he been born there, I could not hope that he could be born in my life, in my soul, because my soul is no palace. Was Jesus born in the inn, in a swept and garnished room with an attendant to help the mother in labor? No. All the world knows there was no room in the inn, and I am thankful because my soul, my heart is not swept, comfortable, and orderly. If the Christ child needs a well-kept hotel in which to be born, then he couldn't be born in me. No matter how unprepared we may feel, the gift of Christmas is that we are all invited to become the manger, a place of care. Even now, Christ is waiting to be born within us. May you know this, and may this bless you this Christmas. God bless you.